And hello, and welcome. We are live. This is Boles.tv. I'm David Boles, and I'm thrilled to have you with us. It's wonderful to see you. It's certainly a thrill. I hope you'll find them. I'm quoting a Beatles song. It's 9 a.m. on the East Coast. It's a Friday. And we are usually here with you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. We've had a rough couple of weeks in our transition from Mac to Windows 11 streaming. And the past 2 days, we've had a very interesting experience where we start our stream via Streamlabs. And then, after about 10 to 12 minutes, you get that error message. The blue error message from Twitch. And I look at my local setup, everything's fine, everything's streaming great. We are, as far as I can tell, doing well. So when I see that screen pop up, I think that's bad. So I stop the stream. I restart the stream. And then it seems like we're okay. Then it doesn't go to that strange blue screen. I don't know what's going on, but now, since it's happened 2 days in a row at exactly the same time, my feeling is I need to go to Streamlabs and see if they have any idea what that's about. It's just totally, utterly bizarre. I don't know why, but I'll work on it and I'll see if we can get it fixed. So we're keeping an eye on our CPU usage, which is 0.7, which is fabulous under Windows. Even Windows 11, under Mac, we were routinely 40-50% of CPU usage. Our frames per second, right now, here, is solid at 60. We've lost no frames, and our upload is great at 6K. So, we shouldn't be timing out. We shouldn't be having Twitch problems. I don't know what's going on or why. But this is part of the life of a live streamer. I have so learned. So you're all ready to go. You sit down in your seat. You get ready to turn on your new microphone. And then the stream barfs. It doesn't make sense to me, but who am I? What do I know? I know absolutely nothing, as you can tell, if you're a regular viewer of this live stream. So we have an interesting show today. Lots of things to discuss, but I want to share with you a ongoing saga of this live setup. So we have a new microphone, an Elgato Wave, which you can't see, but it's right in front of my face. It's right here. I'd show it to you, but I don't want to mess it up because it's very sensitive. But aren't we all? And it's on a pedestal, sort of, now. It's not movable. My other microphone was on an arm that I would bring in, and heavy. And so there's a special Elgato arm for their Wave 3 microphone. And it's about $100. So I had it, installed it yesterday. You need a table, so you can go that much clamping. This whole surface clamping onto a table. I have a desk. It's a nice wooden desk, but the edge for clamping is about that big. So I tried clamping it, and it seemed like it would hold, but it's very heavy. And it fell off with the microphone attached. But luckily, I was standing right there and I caught it. So I realized, with this setup and my current equipment, I can't use that fantastic, well-made arm, which can come in and swing out. Fantastic. So I have to go with a stationary mic that I will lift up and put away and lift up and put away when we stream live. So finishing the thought with the lovely Elgato, and I'm a big fan of their stuff. Amazon 2 days ago did not deliver, and I order a lot from Amazon. And our building gets 150 Amazon packages a day. So it's very sophisticated and supposedly translucent, but not always. And sometimes boxes get lost. They get marked as delivered, but they're not delivered. You know what I mean if you've ever dealt with Amazon. Now, every once in a while this happens, and in the past, you could call Amazon and say, hey, this box was marked delivered. I didn't get it. Can you replace it? And they do. They used to. They did. Now, they will hassle you a little bit and say, well, give it a couple of days. And this is what it actually says on their website. Go out and look around your front door. And maybe if you're in a rural area, okay, but if you're in a big city, nothing's going to last outside on your front stoop if it's not inside the building. Go talk to all of your neighbors and interview them and see if they maybe have your box by mistake. Okay, sure. In a big city, if your neighbors take your box, they're not going to admit that they have it. So you now, with Amazon, you request a callback, which used to be a wonderful way of dealing with Amazon, because you'd put in your phone number and they'd call you and you wouldn't have to wait. Their person calls you and immediately you answer the phone, hello. Now the callback is an automated voice, and the automated voice is not friendly, and it interviews you and it decides if you can speak to a live person or not. And if you don't wait the recommended period of time to search for your box or allow the discovery of your box, it hangs up on you. So then yesterday I was told by the machine I had to wait until yesterday afternoon to file a complaint about the non-delivered box. And in that box are 2 Elgato mini lights and an Elgato mini strip light to kind of jazz up our background a little bit. I'm hoping, but who knows? Not so far. And it didn't arrive. And that day we had 5 boxes coming from Amazon. 4 arrived, and the 5th one did not show up. So I decided to try to use the chat feature with Amazon. And I did that yesterday evening. And I understand that companies today now outsource their customer support. Amazon used to have all-American support, and now they don't. And it was very clear to me, as an English teacher and as a writer, that the person I was speaking with did not have a solid grasp of English. Or maybe that person did, and they were just gaslighting me. Totally possible. But I repeatedly asked for someone else to help me, and this person would not even acknowledge that I was asking for help from someone else. So I said, hey, look, this happened. I live in a big building. Everything's automated with deliveries. Everything gets scanned. This package, even though Amazon marked it delivered, did not arrive. And if I look at my history of things that I purchased, I never return anything. Maybe 0.001 of the things I buy, and I never 0.002 ask for something to be replaced that didn't arrive, because usually everything does arrive. And immediately the person dismissed me and said it was delivered to the mailroom. Go check the mailroom. So again, I said, I don't think you're reading my message, because I had already typed all of this out while waiting for this person to come and see me. I said, can you go back and read what I already wrote? And the person replied, yes, it was delivered to the mailroom. I said, but it wasn't delivered, and I re-explained the process. And when Amazon delivers stuff, it comes in boxes in big bags that are dragged from the truck to the mailroom of our huge building. So nobody at Amazon drivers is scanning individual packages. They're scanning bundles of boxes. And if for some reason your box doesn't appear in that bundle, it's not going to be delivered. But the assumption is, rightly so, that when it's processed at the warehouse and scanned into the delivery bundle, that it's in there. But sometimes it's not. And then when it gets to the building, everything is taken out of those bundles and individually scanned into a trackable software. And they did not. Our building did not have that box anywhere. And we have a sister building, and they even checked over there for me and said, hey, did this box get delivered to you? Because sometimes that happens. No. So they said, well, go ahead. So the Amazon support customer in chat said, well, go talk to your neighbors and see if they have it. I said I would if the box was actually here, but the box never arrived. Amazon says, but the box was delivered yesterday. So we went around and around, and I said, you're frustrating me. I'm getting concerned that you're not understanding me. And finally, because I was getting a little concerned, and this conversation in chat was going on for 45 minutes. And it was taking the person I was speaking to like 5 minutes to type a reply. So there was something going on over there. And the person kept saying, I perfectly understand you. Your box was delivered yesterday. Oh. So finally at the end, I guess the person just got tired of me or gave in and said, okay, we'll replace it. No charge to you, we'll send it to you. And I said, okay, great. You said you'll get it tomorrow, which is today. I said, okay, great. I said, are you satisfied? Have I served you well today? And I said, well, I guess we'll see if it arrives tomorrow. No, but right now, are you satisfied with the service you were provided? I don't answer those questions. And then I get an email saying, I see in my orders that it has been reordered for me. And then I get an email about half an hour later from, it looks like, this same person who I had been speaking with for 45 minutes, saying, hey, great talking to you on the phone today. Your replacement is coming to you at no charge, right? Okay, great. End the email right there. But then obviously it's a template that this person used, and they used the wrong template. So the rest of the email said, and by the way, when you return the product that you are dissatisfied with, please print out your shipping label here. This is your RMA number. And I'm thinking, oh no. They processed this as an exchange or something and not as a replacement. So I'm thinking, oh no. So there's nothing to send back because it never arrived. So I replied to the email, taking a chance that maybe it would go to somebody or that person. I said, this is incorrect. Will you please fix it? This is not a replace and return. This is replacement period because it never arrived. There's nothing for me to send back. And they didn't respond. So I guess we'll see if the Elgato stuff arrives today. And I guess we'll see in a week or two if I get another email from Amazon saying, hey, you didn't return your stuff. You're in big trouble. We're going to charge you again. Which is probably what will happen. That has been my experience. So the next thing I want to chat with you about is a very interesting experience I had. And it started last night. I was in bed, getting ready to go to bed, and then I made the mistake as I was plugging in my phone to charge overnight of checking my email. And there was this woman on YouTube who had replied publicly, put a comment on my podcast version of my live stream of the William Hurt raping Marlee Matlin story. And earlier this week I had talked about that. I said on that podcast episode that's published on YouTube as an audio-only file that was getting downvoted. It was upvoted. I had a nice comment from someone that said, thank you so much for publishing this. And then there were downvotes. And I was so curious. I said, what kind of person would downvote a podcast episode discussing Marlee Matlin's rape by William Hurt? What kind of person is that would downvote that? I mean, you're defending William Hurt, you're defending rapists, you're making excuses? And I guess the answer is yes. And now I sort of have proof of that, of what happened, actually. And I'm going to show it to you next, but it seems like my music has stopped. Oh, it's going to be one of those days, I can tell. There we go. So, let me see if I can find this page. This is what it looks like when someone decides to take you on. YouTube. There's the beautiful face. Oh, look, the same shirt. Now, I look worse here, right? Because this is live, and I have fixed the lighting to be more mature. And that is really blown out. But blown out looks better. I can blow myself out here too, but I don't want to ruin your eyes. So this is the podcast. 237 views so far, which for me is remarkable because usually when people listen to my podcast, they listen via Libsyn or Apple Podcasts. That's where all my listeners come from. YouTube maybe gets one or two. But it's fine. I'd rather have those two than none. So 237 since March 15 for me is spectacular. It's like a 200% increase, 2,000% increase of what I usually get. And so here's this woman named Dana Coleman, or Dana Coleman, but it's DANNACOLMAN. She says to me in response, every actor is out to prove something. No man is only a hero. William Hurt was a brilliant actor and a flawed man, but he wasn't a terrible person, because that's how I concluded my podcast. But I had been a fan of him, and then you get more information as time goes on, and Marlee Matlin and others accused him of sexual abuse and physical abuse, and I said, and in the end, you realize that this person you used to admire is really a terrible person. And she's saying, oh no, he's not a terrible person. Now, I don't know why she's defending him like that. Maybe she has abuse in her life. Maybe she knows him. Maybe she has experience with this kind of thing. I don't know. But she put her name or her face on her comment. And so here are my comments in replying to her this morning. And they're quotes from articles, so it's not my opinion. Quote, but our relationship quickly morphed into a different cycle. Bill would snap, physically shove, punch, and beat me, followed by tears, apologies, and him offering me expensive gifts. When the battering began, I sloughed it off. He said he was sorry. Perhaps I instigated it. I only had to visit the emergency room once. It was only after many, many years I admitted to myself that I was the victim of domestic violence. And that's from Donna Kaz, William Hurt's former partner. Not just Marlee Matlin. Here's another of my reply to her reply. As the Chicago Tribune reported at the time, Jennings, another woman who was abused by William Hurt, says she learned of his abuse from her son, who had indicated to her that he saw Hurt kicking Marlee Matlin during his visits with his father. It said that Jennings had 2 abortions during her relationship with Hurt. The second, as People magazine reported, because Hurt was beating her up so much. That's from Salon magazine. My third reply, there are fire engines in the background if you can hear that. I wonder about all the folks who Google search their abusers, waiting for the day when they will no longer exist. Death humanizes people. When our abusers die, we might be surprised to discover that in the end they were mortal human beings. Except for us, they are also boyfriends, lovers, spouses who tried to change the course of our lives, leaving behind brutal remnants of themselves that we will never forget. That's from Rolling Stone. And here's a woman from 6 days ago that said thank you, and I thanked her for her reply. So this Dana Coleman was not done with me. So she immediately posted another reply, 2 replies, to stake out her position publicly on my YouTube page. He, William Hurt, dated Marlee Matlin for 1 year, and they cohabitated for 2 years. This is a very short time that he is accused of abuse, considering he was sober after their relationship ended and for most of his life. Okay, so it appears that she's making excuses that a 1-year relationship, a 2-year relationship, 3 years altogether, shouldn't have any sort of influence in evaluating the character of William Hurt. Now, I'm very curious what her take is on date rape and family rape and stranger danger rape, something that happens within an hour or two and then they never see each other again, except perhaps in a courtroom or in their nightmares. Here are my replies. And again, I'm quoting articles, not my opinion. The mother of one of his children, William Hurt's children, and his former girlfriend, Sandra Jennings, alleged in court that Hurt subjected her to violent physical and verbal abuse, including hitting her in the face when she was holding their infant son. Also from Salon magazine. A second reply. The next thing I knew, he'd pulled me out of bed, screaming at me, shaking me. I was scared. I was sobbing. Then he threw me on the bed, started ripping off his clothes and mine. I was crying. No, 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 please, Bill, no. The next thing I remember is Bill ramming himself inside me as I sobbed. Marlee Matlin wrote of the last time he beat her. She recalled. The struggle turned violent. I was afraid I might not survive. I pulled myself free and ran to the phone. Before I could say anything, Bill yanked the phone out of my hand and slammed it down. She left him after that. Yahoo News. And my final reply to this woman, Dana Coleman. In the case of Matlin, who lost much of her hearing when she was a toddler, she alleged that Hurt emotionally abused her the night she won an Oscar for their first film, Children of a Lesser God, for which he was also nominated and did not win. After the ceremony, she claims he berated her. "Do you really think you deserved it?" she said. She said she feared winning for this reason, dreading a violent response from him. The two had met on the set of that film when Matlin was still a teenager and a fan of his work. Along with the beatings, Matlin alleged Hurt also raped her when he was drunk. Hurt went into treatment for substance abuse multiple times. Why didn't anything do anything? The article continues. In Children of a Lesser God, bruises can clearly be seen on Matlin's leg. Bruises that have nothing to do with the character or her story, but were likely inflicted upon her by the actor, William Hurt, in real life. While Matlin says the emotional abuse continued on set, she wrote that the film's director came to believe that it was all just part of Bill's process, that he needed conflict. So not only is this YouTube commenter sort of excusing his behavior, so was the director on the set of Children of a Lesser God. So those are my responses on my YouTube page concerning what's going on with William Hurt and Marlee Matlin. Now, in my experience, what's going to happen with this woman who has commented and my responses to her is probably one of two things. She will delete her comment, which may or may not, I don't know how YouTube works, delete my comments as well, but I have preserved them, and I will repost them if she does that. I also have a screenshot of her name and face on my YouTube page, commenting. Or she will double down and reply, defending herself and defending William Hurt, and she might get a friend or two to come and defend her as well and take all of them on. Now, it's because of this that I just get tired of, having comments on articles. It's a tiring process, not an interesting process. The people who try to take you on have a vested interest in some way, emotionally or politically or connectively, that is never revealed. But you can kind of make connections, because why would a person come to the defense of William Hurt? He never apologized publicly or privately for any of the abuse or the rapes that he committed. As far as I know, and all the research that I've done, and if I'm wrong, I'm happy to read about it elsewhere. And that's why, having these comments open on stuff is really, it used to be interesting. And on the articles that I published with my friends and colleagues, we would always have a policy of the author responding to the person who's writing a comment. So there's direct interaction. What's going on? People appreciate that. But that leads to trouble sometimes, because people then just try to, bait you. And the best comments that I've seen are on blog pages or in the newspaper digitally, is people just comment, and the author never comments back, and then the commenters just have at it and attack each other. And that's probably a smart way to go. Just leave it out there. And maybe I should have just left this Dana Coleman woman out there saying what I believe are ridiculous things in defense of William Hurt, that he's not a terrible person. I think there's a lot of evidence that he was a terrible person. Great actor, but terrible person. And this all has to go back, if we want to talk about acting and drama, to Aristotle and habit of action. And playwrights and dramatists are very familiar with that. How a person behaves is how they are defined. And I don't believe in recovery for alcohol that they say, oh, it wasn't me, it was the alcohol. The alcohol hit her, not me. The alcohol raped her, not me. I don't believe that's how they teach you to move on with your life and accept responsibility. And in many STEPS programs, you're supposed to admit this, what you've done, it's your fault, you apologize to people you have offended. And if you're not in a STEPS program, just as a human being, if you've hurt someone, you've done something wrong, you publicly apologize to them. If it's a public issue, and you privately apologize to them as well. Habit of action. Was the habit of action of William Hurt over the arc of his life one of a disinterested abuser and perhaps one time or more rapist? That's not for us to decide. You can look and talk to the people who knew him and worked with him. You can look at the public record. Do a Google search on William Hurt and abuse and see what pops up. It's not just one or two articles. And as we close this thought on abuse and rape and reputation, I urge you, if you are a victim of this, of anything, to speak up immediately, because the clock is ticking against you. And silence can be seen in some eyes, in a jury's eyes, in YouTube commenters' eyes, in the eyes of justice, that if you don't move, don't speak up, don't take action, then that's seen by them as acquiescence, that you accept the behavior, that it's fine with you, and you just move on. And I am reminded of the murder in 1970 of a young woman in Lincoln, Nebraska named Wendy Heil. And she went to my high school. She was older than I was a young kid, but it shows what happens in the 1970s in the Midwest. Wendy Heil was taken from her home, a block away from where I lived, and was raped and murdered by a fellow student, who then subsequently lied to the police. And this gentleman, person, rapist, murderer was convicted and did time. And he had powerful parents. And then he came out and got a good job, good government job, institutional job, married, and I believe had kids. Is he a terrible person, or is he reformed? What about the family of Wendy Heil, who lost a daughter and never gained her back? While her murderer and rapist is loose and having a wonderful life and getting a pension and being paid and marrying a woman and then having children with her and she with him. And there are people who will defend this murderer. Oh, he did his time, he served his purpose, he can have a life now. And I just say to them, well, what kind of life does Wendy Heil have moldering in her grave? Who is standing up for Wendy Heil? Where is Wendy Heil's childhood? Where are her children? And I would say that that person is a terrible person for raping and murdering Wendy Heil. But the more interesting question for me, as a dramatist and as a person interested in the human condition, is what kind of woman would not only marry a convicted murderer and rapist, but then bear his children? And that is a question I cannot answer. And I do hope that in my lifetime, I will never be able to answer it. And now we're going to take a very brief break. I'll be back in a moment. And we are back from break. I'm David Boles. This is Boles.tv, B-O-L-E-S .tv. Wonderful to be here with you today. We are on Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern. And oh boy, we just finished a long chat about murderers and abusers and all kinds of strange defenders of those who rape and beat women and other people in relationship to the William Hurt death. It's bizarre how people have their defenders, no matter how awful and terrible you are. You can see examples in public life: Woody Allen, Roman Polanski. Why they are defended, I don't know. But it very smoothly brings us into our next topic. And our topic is this: that abused children eventually, thankfully, become empaths as adults. Now, what does all of that mean? Well, it's an interesting topic. And if you have direct experience, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about before I even start talking about it. But abused children, in the sense of not always physical, more than likely emotional and mental abuse, in the context that we are forming together today here on Boles.tv. And specifically, I'm talking about narcissistic parents, mothers, fathers, and the community of survivors calls them narcs. And the hallmark of a narcissistic parent is that they are always right, the world revolves around them, the children are accoutrements to their living. Children are there to serve and to be shown off and to behave. They're not necessarily there to learn and grow and enhance their lives. Many narcissistic parents think that their children are a burden to them, and that they don't necessarily want them, or they don't want to be involved with their lives. And if anything goes wrong, it's the fault of the child and not the parent. Now, my philosophy has always been, if you have kids, the kids are the center of your universe, and you give up your life for your children. Like it or not, they run the house because they have to. It's part of growing up and part of learning where boundaries are. And even if you have the most well-behaved kid, they're going to test boundaries. And that's what I mean, they run the house, because you have to defend boundaries that you believe are important. Mothers have to give over the sexual tension of the house to their young daughters eventually, and some mothers refuse to do that. They remain in competition with their daughters throughout the rest of their lives. Some fathers believe that the only true man is a strong man, who doesn't back down and who fights with his fists and not always with his heart and his mind. Now, if you were raised in a loving home where you were the golden child, or you were raised by parents who expressed their love and who comforted you and who made you whole, you will probably not have any idea what I'm talking about. You won't have any relationship ratio to compare this to. And that's okay. You've had a wonderful life. You're very fortunate. You've lived well. And I'm sure that your parents and your kids and your parents and your grandparents are all better for it. However, there are some among us who have not been so fortunate. They were raised in abusive homes. And I'm not talking about, burning with cigarettes and branding irons. I'm talking about intellectual, emotional abuse. Yelling, screaming, blaming. And what that does to a young child is it puts them on the defensive. It makes them hypersensitive. And I'm sure you've met people in your life, either as young kids growing up or even in adulthood, that if you say something, something happens, and the other person gets a little scared and says, "Are you mad at me? What did I do? What's wrong?" And some people get really irritated by that kind of question. But where is it coming from? Well, that's what we're going to find out. That's what we're going to discuss. When you are an abused child by a narcissistic parent, you very quickly learn how to read a person. You know how to read a room. You get a sense immediately, is mother mad? Is dad drinking again? And then in your mind, you find ways to cope and associate and move around and find ways to protect yourself. And those are survival methods. And kids are very tough. And sometimes they rely on themselves, they rely on their friends, they rely on outside family who come to their rescue. But often it doesn't help that way because the facade of the family is what's most important to narcissistic parents. And to go outside of that and to break the seal, to burst the bubble of being the perfect family, is not allowed. And the children, those abused children, quickly learn that you always say, "Yes, ma'am," and "Thank you," and "No, sir," and "Of course, sir," if you don't want to have a rotten day and get yelled at or hit or punished. You don't argue with narcissists because they don't care. All you can do in order to survive a narcissist is to agree with them, even if you don't. I'm reminded of the story of the young child riding in a car with her mother, and she's standing up sitting together, and the young girl is standing on her car seat, and they're going on the highway. And the mother says, "Sit down, it's not safe for you. Sit down, put your seatbelt on." And finally, after a time, the young girl complies, puts on her seatbelt, and looks at her mother and said, "In my mind, I'm still standing up." And I love that story because it's very brilliant and rebellious and also solves a problem and shows the power of the mind. Well, that's what narcissistic parents' kids have to do every day. Okay, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. In my mind, I'm going the other way. But I have to tell you what you want to hear, because if I don't agree with you, as a narcissist, I'm going to be in trouble as a kid. You're going to make my life miserable. And really, the only way, ultimately, out of that misery is to escape. You plan your escape. And that's what it is. You run away. You find a boyfriend, you find a girlfriend, you have a little bit of extra money, you have an aunt or an uncle who helps, a cousin, and you pick up your things and you run away and you live somewhere else. And you don't tell that person where you're going. You don't tell your narcissistic parents what's going on in your life. You gray rock them, which means when they ask you all their questions, which are all about control, you just give non-committal answers. You gray rock them. And they don't like it because they know you're gray rocking them. But that's what you have to do. And some just go 100% no contact. They have no contact once they escape from their narcissistic parents. Because the narcs will never be healed. Because if you heal from being a narc, that means you have a problem. And narcissists do not believe that they have problems. They are infallible and they are perfect people. So how can you have a conversation with them? You can't. How can you heal in therapy? You can't, because they will not be a part of the process. Now, you can do your best to heal yourself through therapy or talking with people or just by escaping and having to deal with it again. And then you're going to meet these other people that I talked about earlier who had perfect lives. And they say, "Oh, but that's your mother. Oh, that's your dad. You can't cut them off." And again, another form of abuse for the abused child in your mind. "Oh yeah, okay, I'll call my mom tonight. In my mind, I'm never speaking to her again." And of course, the narcs have no idea what you're talking about. That never happened. I don't know why he won't speak to me. I don't know what's going on with my daughter. I don't know why she doesn't respond to my texts. I have no idea. I was the perfect parent. So these young kids learn very quickly to figure out how to deal with these personalities in order just to survive into the next day. And sometimes there's lying, sometimes there's manipulation that the kids do on their own in their mind in order to survive. And these kids meet, as I said, these deniers. Well, it can't be possible that she would say that to you because she's your mother. Your mother loves you. And you just shrug your shoulders. And you can, if you say anything, oh no, oh, then they come after you. Oh. And then you become an adult. So the abused child becomes an adult and, by default, an empath. Now, what's an empath? Empath is short for empathic. Now, you may think of a Star Wars and the Troy character who reads minds and I know what's going on because I'm an empath. It's sort of like that. But as an adult, you quickly learn to read people because you had to as a kid to survive. So you look for subtle clues in voice tone, in the way eyes move around the room of the people that you are observing. Are they in a good mood? Are they having a bad day? Are they going to take it out on me? You become an empath with everyone you meet. You've met all the masks before, and you, as an abused child, a survivor of a narcissistic parent, have the ability to see through the mask. You know the people you are dealing with. And they may not know that about you. They may think they fooled you, because that's what people do every day in their life. So sometimes you're in school or in a workplace or in a meeting with a group of people and someone leading the group comes in and you, as a survivor, as an adult empath, say, oh boy, this is going to be a bad meeting. And if you happen to say that, there are going to be other people who are clueless in the room with you. What are you talking about? He's in a good mood. He smiled. And you're thinking, oh, if they only knew what's coming. I know what's going to happen before it happens. And the best part is, if you're in like a group of 10 to 15 people, there are going to be people who say, oh, what are you talking about? Oh, I didn't see that. I don't know what's wrong with you. That's not happening. I don't see that whatsoever. Those are people who were not abused as children. They don't have the ability to be an empath because they didn't suffer as a child. Now, they can be empathetic, but they're not an empath. And empath adults recognize other empaths. As Howard Stein, my friend and mentor, taught me at Columbia University in the city of New York, talent recognizes talent. And the same is true for empaths as adults. Adult empaths recognize each other. So you're in a room and someone makes a comment, oh boy, we're in trouble. And other people are saying, what are you talking about? This is going to be a great meeting. And then, across the table, across the room, one person, two person will look at you and just go like that. They know because they're just like you. They were abused by narcissists growing up. They learned how to read the room. They learned how to cope. They learned all the different kind of personality traits and traps. And now as adults, they too are undercover empaths. And they know. And then you have a connection. And on the break, lunch, later, walking back to the car, they come up to you and say, yes, and this, and this, and this, and this, and all the things that maybe you didn't notice because of your experiences, they notice because of their experiences. And then you put it all together. And of course, you're right. Because what the other people in the room didn't know is that in 20 minutes, they're going to be clubbed over the head by this person who they thought was in a great mood. But you saw something coming, and so did 2 and 3 other people in the room at the same time. Because they too had the same experience growing up in a narcissistic family. And this panic is real. There are alarm buttons. And some people never recover. They're always on edge. They are always panicking. Are you mad at me? What have I done? How can I do better? You've met those people. They are terrified of upsetting you. They are terrified of people being mad at them. And that's how other people, empaths or not, control them. And usually there are other narcissists that they meet in adult lives. And unfortunately, those people who are not in control of their panic tend to hook up and connect with narcissists because they're familiar with them. They grew up with them. The narcissist appreciates the questioning and the adoration. Are you mad at me? What can I do? And then the circle continues, and the circle is closed. The abused child by narcissistic parents grows up to be an empath as an adult, and without some sort of emotional, intellectual intervention, they close their own circle by marrying their mother or their father, their narcissistic mother or father. And that is the stuff of tragedies. That is the stuff of great works of drama that are founded in the real relationships and the sorrowful endings of how people begin and end their lives. So if you happen to not be an adult empath, and you're in a meeting with someone, and they're noticing things going on that don't occur to you, don't dismiss them. Don't brush them off. Don't put them down. Just ask them a question. What are you seeing? What's going to happen? What's really going on? And the answers you get will surprise you. And now, my friend, one more brief blood pressure break. I'll be back in a minute. And we are back from break. I'm David Boles, and this is Boles.tv, BOLES.tv. We are here every day, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. if we are lucky. And we have not had good luck the last week and a half. But we're here now. And as our delightful friend, artist Dora from New York City, has said, "Good morning, you sound great. Glad that everything is fixed." Yeah, Dora. I've been ranting all day. For an hour, I've been ranting about the defenders of William Hurt against his raping of Marlee Matlin, and then talking about narcissistic parents and kids that grow up to be empaths. And they're both going to appear in future podcast episodes. And now, we can celebrate a little bit after the ranting is over. Because, Dora, you're the one who helped me fix this. Because I think it was Monday. You said, "Look, I can't hear you. You're glitching and stuttering." And I said, "What?" And I turned it, and I ended the stream. Because you were right. Something was very wrong. And we know it's Windows 11. But I didn't know how to fix it. And I was going to reinstall and start over, and then I just decided I had to go a different way. So instead of using a $1,000 amplifier for my microphone, I realized that I had to go with a $145 microphone from Elgato, because Elgato is one of the few hardware software companies who have software for their hardware that is Windows 11 compatible. And it worked. Now we have this microphone here that's very tiny and not coming in from the side, and we have wonderful things where we have sounds in our Stream Deck that I finally got reinstalled. I think you can hear that. It's a little low in my headphones. But it's been a very difficult process trying to get things fixed, trying to find out why things aren't working. But now they're working, and you have now confirmed that for me. That you can hear me, and that we're not stuttering, and that it looks good. So I thank you for that, my friend, because we are trying to move forward so we get past this technical stuff, and we can concentrate on our delightful and delicious content, as we like to say. So we're going to talk about Hikaru Nakamura in just a moment, and it's sort of an interesting topic. It just fits what we're talking about: defenders of murderers and rapists, children of narcissistic parents who grow up to be empathic adults, and then what happens between Hikaru Nakamura and Magnus Carlsen. But first, I forgot to start with this because I always like to start with it because it kind of brightens my day. If you're into crypto and NFTs, Ethereum is exploding. Last week it was steady at 2,500, and now it's almost 3,200 for Ethereum. And if you look at Bitcoin, it's almost $45,000. It's been hanging around 40, 41,000, and last week it was 38. Why? I don't know. Is the war in Ukraine still firing all of this up? I don't know what's happening, but it's very good for collectors. Actually, it's good for artists. It's terrible for collectors, because you got to buy when Ethereum is down. And it can make a difference of like $200 to $300 on the NFT artwork you're buying. So creators are celebrating, buyers are now going into a cooling off period. How's the gas going for Ethereum? Because you got to pay the gas, at least for the next couple of months before they fix it. Oh, it's high, $25. That's much. Around $8 is good. Last week it was $125. And as of right now, it's $25. Terrible, but what are you going to do? That's the life we live now. So this is our rant on our YouTube page. We'll see if it sticks around or if she deletes her messages. And if she deletes her comments, I will go back and put my comments up, replying to myself if I have to, because it took a lot of time to fix that this morning. So Hikaru Nakamura is a wonderful chess genius. And for 5 years, I think almost in a row, 5 years in a row, oh my goodness, look who's here now. It's Gordon Davidescu. I'm happy to see Ethereum go up. A number of months ago, I got $20 worth, which is presently worth $17. Here's to hoping it goes back over 20. Oh, it definitely will, especially with the split that's coming up. And Gordon is, in case you don't know, my longtime friend and forever collaborator. I think we started 2 or 3 11 magazines together, and he wrote and I wrote, and we conquered the world together. And artist Dora is our artist friend, also living in New York City, who does wonderful, fantastic work and is a big part of this show. So it's delightful to have both of you here. Only good things coming for us in the beginning. There's artist Dora saying hello to Gordon. Oh, you'll love Gordon. Gordon's wonderful. I believe Gordon has 2 wonderful children. You go to bolesblogs.com, do a search on Gordon, and you're going to get all these, I think, 700 articles, I think, at least. And he writes about wonderful, interesting things. I love the article he wrote about his wife becoming Jewish so they could have beautiful Jewish children together. And it's a beautiful, Elizabeth emerges Jewish, something like that, but it's a wonderful piece. Gordon says, by the way, related to your mentions of people worrying about upsetting people, on occasion, I would get so worried that I upset you. Well, that's interesting. I do understand. When we're publishing things together, we try to have standards. And I was never, ever angry at anybody. But sometimes I get very intense and very purposeful. Try not to be abusive, say bad things or curse at people. But there is always that tension to try to become, as the child of a narcissistic parent, perfect in every way. And if there's an imperfection along the way, it needs to be fixed. But now as I'm older and uglier, then you figure out, well, it's okay to have imperfect things. That's why the Navajo rug makers, when they make a rug in the 1800s, would always put in a mistake, because they would say only God, the gods, are perfect, not us. There's Gordon saying hello back to Dora. So Gordon, you make an interesting point, and I'm glad you're bringing it up. Now, I don't know if you ever asked me at the time, hey, did I do something wrong? Are you mad at me? And I would have said, oh no, not you. The process maybe. Striving for perfection. Because we were pioneers back then. You know, we started our magazine in 1996. We were the only game in town for several years. And lots of pressure to commercialize and advertise, and we were not interested in any of that. So no, there's no upset here, no anger here, never has been. Always respect for the person and the talent. Talent recognizes talent. Now, I hope, Gordon, that you're not saying you came from a narcissistic family, that you're worrying about stuff like that. But if you did, okay. Gordon says, you know, what's funny is that I was afraid to ask if you're upset with me because I was worried the answer would come back a resounding yes. And you're fired, kid. Well, those are human results and human feelings. And it's not something that I would ever do. In my whole time, never fired anybody, because I don't think I really ever hired anybody. We were just all kind of working on this together, and people come and go and they leave. That's one thing I learned about the theater profession from one of my first agents, Helen Merrill. She said, everybody leaves, just remember that. And this is before I had started any magazines or anything. And her point was, her reputation was finding talent, starting them, giving them great deals, loaning them money. She loaned one major playwright $26,000. He became a major playwright. And then they all leave for a bigger agency and bigger money. And I don't think he ever paid her back. She made money off of him, but he never paid back the loan, which was really terrible. So that's one thing you have to realize when you're doing something where you're not paying people and it's all volunteer. You can't get mad at people. You can't accuse people. You can't say you're out, because what's the point of that? They're volunteering their time to try to serve the same vision that you're trying to follow. So no sort of firing, nothing like that. But sometimes you do have higher standards for some people than other people. You don't expect people to disappoint you who have never disappointed you. And that's something that you learn as you go on in your life, that people will disappoint you. And it's okay. You don't want them to disappoint you, but they do. But Gordon, for the record, never disappointed me about anything. Gordon was a very hard worker. Now, sometimes we would have, I don't even want to call them disagreements. We would have different points of view on what an article should be and what an article should not be, a topic that's good for conversation. But when it came down to it, Gordon made his own decisions. I just gave him feedback. And I tried not to be harsh, but maybe I was. And if I was, I apologize. That was never my intention. But sometimes you get wrapped up in the purpose and trying to get things done. And this, again, leads us right into our next topic, which is very, 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 very interesting. So Hikaru Nakamura, and if anybody wants to say anything, the chat is slow, so just type it and I will respond as we go. So Hikaru, and by the way, Gordon, you are now a VIP in this live stream, and I did that this morning before you showed up. So there's no anger here, only love and respect for my dear friend Gordon. I was disappointed that you have had your life and your children to raise, and you couldn't really do much writing for me anymore, but that's life. And I'm delighted that you're a wonderful parent and you have great kids. That's more important than anything. So Hikaru Nakamura is a streamer. And one of the reasons I'm doing this live stream is because of Hikaru Nakamura. And Hikaru Nakamura says that about XQC, who is the biggest streamer on Twitch. He has 80,000 people watching him routinely every single day. And the man is amazing. His name is Felix, from Canada, lives in California now, I believe. And he streams for 12 hours. Every day, he's on. Morning, noon, and night. XQC is streaming on Twitch. And it's hard to understand him. He speaks very fast, but he plays a lot of different games, and he's fun. And he's 26 now, so he's been streaming for a long time. And people in his chat say, Felix, I grew up with you. I would go to bed at night watching you stream. You mean everything to me. I don't think he cares, but the people who watch him care. And so Hikaru said he learned how to stream by watching XQC, which I find odd because Hikaru is very friendly, very warm, and XQC is not. He curses at his chat. Hikaru doesn't. And Hikaru is a chess player. That's all he does. He gets on, and for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, he plays chess. And it's sort of hard to watch because he's so smart and so thoughtful and so keen that he makes you feel dumb watching. And you try to catch up with him, and you can't because he's just too smart. And he doesn't like to explain things. He doesn't believe in doing tutorials for new players because he said it dumbs you down as a grandmaster. That's his point of view. Okay. And lately, Hikaru's been trying to fill his stream by watching reruns of Survivor, which I find very odd and disappointing. And I admit, when he starts playing Survivor on his live stream, I go to a different stream because I can't watch Survivor. And I don't need Hikaru Nakamura commenting on Survivor. But I understand that's how he makes his money. So watching Survivor, commenting, starting, stopping, that's an hour and a half of wasted time where you're getting advertising revenue. I understand why he does it. So I guess there was this guy on Twitch who has now been banned from Twitch. Dr. Desperation, Dr. Despirito, I don't remember what his name is. Dr. Danger. Anyway, he got kicked off Twitch, and he's now on YouTube. And I guess our beloved Hikaru, on his live stream, played a video of this Dr. Disrespect, I think that's his name, playing chess. Oh, there's Gordon. I would rather compete in Survivor, and I would be terrible, than watch someone watch it. Me too. I love that. I would love to be on Survivor. I think it'd be a lot of fun, but I don't want to watch it. And we used to watch Survivor every week, and then it's just the exact same people, the exact same story every single week. We don't watch it anymore. And for those of you who may be wondering, why are you reading chat? Well, for our deaf viewers and our hard of hearing viewers who are watching closed captions, plus Gordon says, plus you have the power of Boles bells in your favor. Very, very true. That is a work of very hard love. Bolesbells.com. So I read the comments for our deaf and hard of hearing viewers because if they have closed captions on, they cannot see the chat and watch captions at the same time. They have to bounce back and forth. And also, I often use clips from this live stream as a podcast episode. And if people are commenting and making interesting comments in chat, then I can read them, and then people in the podcast can hear them. So the hardcore Twitch people say, stop reading your chat. And I say, I can read my chat for now, because we have a very calm chat. But if we have 10,000 people in chat, I won't be able to do it anymore. But for now, I can, because the chatting is interesting, which is why we have verified chat. Now, people tell me again, you want more viewers, you want more people, turn off the verification. Just let people post whatever they want. And we got burned with that. As we first started, there were pedophilia comments and gross things about the disabled. So I said, no, that is not my style. I don't want to stream like that. So if people want to say something, they can verify their chat, their email. They can verify their phone if they want to chat. It's very fine. And so far, it's been great. It's worked wonders. So Hikaru got in trouble with Twitch for showing a clip of this Dr. I forgot his name already, Disrespect, playing chess. And I guess Twitch said, we banned him. And Hikaru, in defense, sort of said, well, but he posted something that, his lawsuit against you was resolved and everything was fine. And I guess that meant legally, but he was still banned by Twitch. So by Hikaru, on his stream, watching a stream with Dr. Disrespect, violated his terms of service with Twitch. And Hikaru's a big streamer. He gets, 12,000 people watching his streams every day. So he makes, $750,000 a year from streaming on Twitch. XQC, who I mentioned before, with 80,000 viewers every day, makes $8 million a year by playing games on Twitch. So Twitch, for some reason, decided to ban Hikaru for 3 days. And that's a lot of money. Hikaru says you don't stream for 1 day, you lose 200 subscribers. And a subscriber is worth $5. And the streamer gets half of that. So $2.50 times 200 is a lot of money that he's missing every day by not live streaming. And Hikaru accepted it. He said, I misunderstood what was going on. And people said it's too harsh because XQC, who we talked about, live streamed on his stream the Olympics. Now, you can't do that. But he did it. And then he was suspended, banned for 3 days. Okay, streaming the Olympics, showing a clip of a banned person playing chess, not really the same thing. But the thing I wanted to show you about Hikaru is this amazing video. Now, I can't play the audio because there might be music and then I'll get blocked and muted and DMCA'd. It's a big thing. But Magnus Carlsen is the current world champ. And this is not about chess. This is about the human condition. This is about people reacting to each other. So don't think we're going to be playing chess because we're not yet. And we're not today. So this is Magnus Carlsen, who's the current world champ. He's been world champ for, I think, 10 years. And he's admitted he's slightly bored with it. He wants to find new people because all the people in his age range, in his group, he beats them all routinely. And he's a little bored. Every once in a while, someone will beat him. But he really wants to play Alireza Feroja, who is the new upcoming young genius. I believe he's 18. That everybody's not scared of, but they admire him because he is such a brilliant player. And Magnus wants to play him regularly. But this is from 2018 in the Sinkfield Cup in St. Louis. And Magnus, for some reason, has Hikaru's number. And always has. And Hikaru has admitted that on his live stream. That when it comes to playing Magnus, he can't figure out how to beat him because Magnus is always consistent. He rarely makes a mistake. And even when he's in trouble, he never panics. He just keeps playing. He will not resign. He doesn't like to draw. He wants the win. So there have been a few times where Hikaru has won or has given Magnus a good game. And Magnus just always does win. And he's very confident in that. So in this game, this is going to be the most painful 5 minutes, if you are a human being, especially if you are an adult empath, that you will ever watch. Because Hikaru made a blunder. Now, blunder in colloquial terms is a terrible thing. How dare you say I blundered? That's a terrible insult. If you told someone you blundered who is not a chess player, they will probably be upset with you because that is a rough word. But in the chess world, it's a term that you made a mistake. You lost an important piece. You lost the game. You blundered. And Fabiano Caruana made a big blunder in a big match a couple of months ago. And it was embarrassing. The look on his face as they looked in the cameras, he realized what he had done. Lost his knight in a ridiculous move. Well, the same thing happened here in 2018 with Hikaru. He made a terrible mistake. And he was winning against Magnus Carlsen. And what you're going to see in this video is Hikaru very, very, very deeply upset. And you're Magnus Carlsen, and you're the world champ. And you're going to see how kind Magnus Carlsen was to Hikaru. Because normally you sit there, sometimes you get up, you go to the bathroom, you come back. But basically you're sitting there at the chessboard for 5-6 hours. And they'd been playing for, I think, 5 or 6 hours. That's an average game over the board. That's why people like to play online, play 10-minute games, get it done, over with, go. But over the board is the traditional way that you play chess. And Hikaru blunders. And Magnus, who is a chess player and, maybe some say awkward as a human being, is very kind to him. And he kind of gets up and pretends to walk around and, sits at a different table to let Hikaru regain his composure. And even if you don't like Magnus Carlsen, because he always wins, you do find a great deal of respect that he gives Hikaru his space to try to come to terms with what he had just done. So I've just told you what the whole video is, but now you'll see it for yourself. And I'll try to chat with this a little bit. So Hikaru has made his mistake, and he's writing down his mistake. And now he realizes that he just lost the game. And Magnus knows that he's won the game. So he doesn't really have anything to do except sit there. And you can see that Magnus looks like he feels bad. And Hikaru is looking at he can't believe what he did. He's trying to figure out what happened. He's very analytical. He's very hard on himself. And Magnus is like, uh-oh. Okay, I've seen this face before. And it looks like Magnus is upset, but Magnus is now winning. He's won the game. And Hikaru's trying to figure out a way. He can't even look at the board. He's so upset. And here they're trying to, the commentators are explaining the position and what happened and why and how much time is left in the game. And they're explaining the blunder. And even on his live stream, when Hikaru makes a mistake, he gets very upset with himself. It's like, dude, it's okay. And he's honest. He says, look, a blunder that he makes online playing with kids. He says, that's going to bother me for the rest of the day. I'm going to think about this when I go to bed at night. Now, that's a kind of self-torture that is not always helpful. So as you can see, the commentators are trying to fill the space, and Hikaru's head is in his hands. And I believe it's Hikaru's turn, because Magnus isn't moving, so he's just waiting for Hikaru to do something. And it's very awkward. And this has been viewed 1.8 million times. So now Magnus gets up, which is very lovely and very nice, and walks away, right? Oh, I'll go check on this other game and see what's going on, because he knows he has to give Hikaru a moment because he's not moving and he's not getting over it. And then Magnus comes back, because if he makes a move, I guess it is Hikaru's move, because if he makes a move, then he's got to make his move. So he sits back down. Okay, I'll have a little drink of water. And they're not speaking. Hikaru's not speaking to him. He knows Magnus always has his number. He knows Magnus always often beats him in these end games. And Hikaru had him, and then he missed. And he's shaking his head. He's not speaking. He's not saying a word. He can't even look at Magnus. And Magnus is again very uncomfortable. A defensive position with his mouth behind his hand. And we're just waiting. And the inevitable is going to happen, where Hikaru is going to have to resign. Gordon says, I think of it is people will replay the mistake in their mind and keep thinking over and over, but if I had just done this, or if I had just done that. But knowing the mistakes is in the past, it cannot be corrected. Exactly. That's what Hikaru's doing. He's going from the beginning of the game to the end of the game and figuring out what he has done wrong. And people who have watched this many times says that Hikaru is crying here a little bit because he was so close and he so rarely beats Magnus. And it's all his fault. This isn't something Magnus did. This is a mistake, a blunder that Hikaru made. And he can't get over it. And usually you do this when you're at home or in the hotel after. But he just can't help himself. And Magnus just wants to go home. And these grandmasters, they have supercomputers. Hikaru said he has a supercomputer at home that he paid $20,000 for, that all it does is play chess games, where he puts positions in, and then the chess engine, the supercomputer, plays out all of the possibilities from now into infinity. And you can do that online, but they're not supercomputers, and they give maybe, 10 moves. But the supercomputers will go 100 moves in like 2 minutes. And he says all the big grandmasters, see, and Hikaru resigns. So that's what Magnus was waiting for all this time, was for Hikaru to resign. And he gave him his time, didn't say anything, didn't fuss. And they're talking to each other about the blunder, and they have to sign each other's player sheets. Yeah, really? Maybe. Hikaru's telling and that's what they do. When the game is over, they talk about mistakes and what happened. And so they're trying to figure it out. And Magnus is saying, don't worry about it, just let it go. But Hikaru doesn't let things go. He stews on them, which is probably what makes him a great player. He finds ways to win, where the rest of us, the term, and I don't like this term in chess, is, well, I have to trick them. I have to do something that fakes them out and gets the win. And that's a standard tactic, unfortunately, in chess, is to try to trick your opponent into making a blunder or making a move. And Hikaru is very good at that. And since then, Hikaru has made a lot of gains. The COVID experiment put a lot of people over a chessboard. I returned to chess after about 40 years. And it's a very different game now with these computers. Stockfish, AlphaZero, they all know more about chess and how to win and their computers than I will ever know, than the rest of us will ever know. The rest of us can know. And AlphaZero beat Garry Kasparov convincingly. Gordon says, I wonder if for most of us normal humans, this is like if you play the daily Wordle and don't guess the word one day after many days of getting it right in a row. I think that's a very good comparison. I love Wordle. I read somewhere that if you want to win Wordle reliably, your first guess is and must always be irate. That gives you the highest percentage of winning in 2 or 3 moves, if your first word is always irate. And most people make their first guess because they have a favorite word or they're being silly. And the experts say don't ever throw away your first guess. Make the first guess that gives you the best possible chance of filling in the rest of the puzzle. And there's Wordle, and a lot of these live streamers play Wordle every day, including Hikaru. And there's a chess Wordle that Hikaru plays, which is very interesting, where they play the computer and you then put in what your moves are and what you have to name what the beginning sequence is. And it's very difficult. There's Loodle, I've seen that played as well, which are dirty, filthy words that you can play in the spirit of Wordle. So watching Hikaru and Magnus is very interesting. And if you're not a fan of Magnus Carlsen, you should be now, because the way he handled Hikaru was magnificent and friendly and very nice. Gordon says, I play a secondary game with a friend. Once we beat the game for the day, we challenge each other to write a sentence based on the words we use that day. Fun. Oh, I love that. That's very thoughtful. That's delightful. I thank you for sharing that. And I'm not so sure what Hikaru Nakamura learned that day, except he gets very upset. And there are many videos of a young 10, 11-year-old Hikaru losing and just really, really getting upset with himself. And he puts his head in his hands and he looks away and he can't look at the board. It's very sad in some ways that a guy with that much talent can't appreciate it. And Hikaru has said, look, he would be a much higher rated, better player if there were no Magnus Carlsen in the world. He admits that, as do others, that Magnus is the greatest of all time. And he will be. He will surpass Garry Kasparov. Because Magnus is winning in the world of computer chess. And it changes you. It really does affect who you are and what you are as a human being. Because you're not ever now in a game of chess playing against the other person. You're playing against the other person's knowledge of what the computer says is the next best move. And it didn't used to be that way. It used to be person against person. You study your stuff, I study my stuff. And you're studying what other humans do. And now you're trying to guess the best computer move. And there are people who cheat online. Even in a 10-minute game where you have, a few seconds to make a move, they cheat. And Hikaru, because he's so smart, when he plays live, he knows people who are cheating. And his phrase is, that's not a human move. That's a computer move. And Hikaru explains, he says, because no human being would ever think to make that little move now for a payoff 10 moves later. No human thinks that far ahead. So he knows when people are cheating. He knows the difference between a human move and a computer move. Because a human move is the most logical move that a human mind can think of. Well, computers don't rely on logic or even patterns of recognition, which is what chess is in many ways, recognizing a pattern. Computers just make the best move to get them to the end to a win. Well, it's been a wonderful show today. I thank you so much for joining us. We've talked about a lot of very important things. Our good friend Dora was able to stop by and say hello, even though she's very busy today. And our old best friend Gordon Davidescu is still here, saying hello and sharing in chat, which is just delightful. If you have any comments for me, you can email me, david@boles.tv, BOLES.tv. If you have a question for Jana, it's jana@boles.tv. There's Dora again. Oh, it's her son's birthday as well. That's fantastic. Did you paint him something for his birthday? And Gordon says, oh, quickly, I saw a Facebook ad for vegan ramen. No coincidences, right? I bought the Facebook special. Fabulous. I love it. They must know that you're on this live stream and we're talking about veganism. Somehow they're tracking you. It's all in the tracking. And you can super follow us on Twitter @DavidBoles. On Facebook, hey, we're regular old BOLES is our business page. On Instagram, Boles Books. I always forget this one. TikTok, because we're not very active there. But we are there. Boles TV, BOLES TV. Our video on demand on YouTube is boles.live. And tomorrow, Saturday and Sunday at 11, Jana Marie, sweetheart, will be here. All in American Sign Language, but with typed text. And she'll give you vocabulary lessons in American Sign Language. And she talks about the world, not just about disability. She talks about fun facts, other interesting things going on in the world. And it's fun and it's inclusive, and I'm so delighted that she is able to help us and participate. So if you have any other questions, comments, type them right now in chat before we take our leave for the day. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful day in New York. It's sort of sunny and sort of warm. The windows are open, which is why you hear all the sirens in the background. Yesterday was an ugly day. That was gray and overcast and lots of rain and muck. But spring is coming. Summer is on the way. And as you get older and wiser, you realize there's value in the sun, even if there's nothing good for you under the sun, which is this face and these scars. White scars, sun damage, nothing good for you under the sun. But the warmth is nice. I'll see you again on Monday. Take care. And may you have a wonderful nap, a good sleep, and may you wake up. Oh, here we have some comments with joy in your soul. Dora says, my son paints as well. Oh, I love that. He's picked a couple of paintings that he likes. When he moves, I'll give him one. Love that. And Gordon says, how do you so perfectly say human meme and sound about the same in every episode? The inflection is so wonderful. Well, thank you for that. It's a little bit different now that I'm using clips from the live stream to promote the podcast, because I would wake up at 4 a.m. on Sunday and do the recordings. And sometimes it's very scripted, highly mechanized, and after you've said the same thing, this is David Boles, human meme, for 5 years, it kind of becomes part of you. And not always in a good way, but usually in a good way. But people think that I do, that I have the ending and I have the beginning and that I cut and paste them in. Well, if you know anything about editing or about recording audio, you never want to cut and paste if you don't have to. Just say it live. And so I always did. And I know some people make fun of me by the way I say it, but that's okay because that's part of the process. Well, you have to share some of your son's paintings with us, Dora, if he is ever up to it. If he's not, that's fine. Some people are not into that. But it would be fun to see and show. And I know he's not into NFTs, but maybe he should be. Because if you're a creator, they can only make you money. So I'm trying to think. So I think that I'm going to have 2 podcast episodes come out of this live stream. The one is about responding to the William Hurt defenders, which I still find shocking. Even though I talked about it for half an hour, I still find them unbelievable. And I've talked to Jana Marie about this, and she says, there are always people who defend the abusers for reasons that we don't understand. Man, it's true. Who would think? That a murderer would have someone stand by him. Charles Manson had fans who would write to him in prison. It's not a world I understand. And it's not a world I want to understand. And the second podcast episode, I think, is going to be my conversation about abused children becoming empathic adults. So that will be coming to a Human Mean podcast near you. And I guess we're out of time and out of comments. And so I'll say to you, good day, good night, good evening. I will see you soon.